my name is Minso Kim, and I'm a rising sophomore at the American School in Japan. As a member of the Global Thinker Network, I wrote a research paper investigating the similarities and differences of the factors determining happiness in South Korea and Japan. So, to begin with, why was the research paper specifically about the two countries? I chose these two countries because of the close but distant relationship. The two countries are close in terms of geography and language structure, but are distant as they were adversaries throughout history. I was curious about how this special relationship would appear in the way people tend to define happiness in the two countries. There were also more personal reasons. I spent 9 years of my life in South Korea, which is my home country, and I'm currently living in Japan, where I spent my young childhood. So my personal connection to these two countries also was a reason why I chose them. Next, why is this topic important? I specifically chose this topic because happiness is the final goal for many people. I thought that by understanding how people define happiness, this important aspect of life, we would be able to comprehend how to best help groups of people. I hope my research paper provides an insight for lawmakers and charity organizations to implement effective and helpful methods that would best suit the people of South Korea and Japan. So now, I'll provide a brief general overview of the outline of my research paper. I started off explaining the paradox between the relationship between South Korea and Japan, clarifying the reason for the research. I then defined the quality of life and standard of living, two components of happiness. Next, I analyzed the data I collected about the different definitions of happiness in the two countries, along with key determinants. I then compared and contrasted the different views, providing a recommendation based on the result. Well, the research did not go smoothly at all times. Remembering to cite every source correctly was a challenging task that I occasionally forgot about. Also, collecting data from a wide variety of sources, ranging from government publications to articles from research centers, took a considerable amount of time and effort. One worry I had about writing the paper was the possible sensitivity of the topic. I was worried that because the paper provided a compare and contrast analysis of the people of the two countries, it could potentially bring forth a competitive landscape. So, I would like to proclaim that the research was driven by pure curiosity with the goal of enriching the lives of South Korean and Japanese people. Now, I will summarize the content itself. Although there are minor differences within categories, there lies many similarities between South Korean and Japanese people's perception of happiness. The similarities were that both South Korean and Japanese people tended to value material well-being, health, and social factors as indicators of happiness. The small difference lies in the scale of social interaction. South Koreans prefer larger-scale social interactions involving social capital, while Japanese people tend to prefer smaller-scale social interactions within their families. Lastly, I concluded the paper with recommendations. I hope that by reading this research paper, those who have the power to make a change will take action to cope with social inequality. Social inequality is a huge problem today and connects to all kinds of inequalities. One connection is with economic inequality. As South Korean and Japanese people seek happiness and material well-being, one's economic status influences one's happiness greatly. Therefore, the ones in the upper class tend to have higher happiness levels with upper class awareness. This may be a good thing for the upper class, but the problem is that the same mechanism applies to the lower class too. Seeing themselves as relatively inferior, many people from the lower class have lower happiness levels. Therefore, in order to reduce or even eliminate the gap, coping with inequality is very crucial. After analyzing the similarities and differences, I reached the conclusion that the augmentation of public resources that would implement high-quality education, government-funded health services, and disaster aid for the needy would decrease inequality and gaps in happiness, forming a more unified society. These recommendations would raise happiness levels as they would satisfy the determinants of material well-being, health, and social factors. Education builds the potential for material well-being by supporting career paths and provides the opportunity for social interaction. Government-funded health services satisfy the desire of good health, and disaster aid for the needy supports material well-being in terms of basic necessities. So to conclude my video presentation, please read the research paper keeping the purpose in mind and enjoy. Thank you.